This game and video will have a lot of references to stuff like depression, mental health, and suicide, which is understandably a bit heavy for some viewers, so watch at your own discretion. What's up? Welcome to Morbid's Vault, the Spooky Edition! It's October, so that means that I gotta do a horror game for Halloween, my favorite holiday. So what's in it for today? Costumes? Candy? Getting drunk at parties? Nah, today we're gonna play a game about unending sadness and insanity! Yay! Alright, so, Cry of Fear. Cry of Fear is a survival horror FPS that seems to take a lot of inspiration from games like Silent Hill, and has a big psychological element. It's mostly horror, but it also has bits of shooting action here and there. I will be spoiling this entire game, but it is free to play on Steam, so if you can, I recommend that you pick it up and play it first. So you open up a game, and it's already fucked up and awesome. You get a warning about violence and gore right in front of a guy blowing his brains out with a shotgun. That's amazing! That's like if I had an epilepsy warning, but like on a strobe light background. You start up a new game, and you can get an introduction to the main character, Simon. As you can see, he's not doing very good and dealing with a lot of issues, which becomes a big theme later on in the game. After that, you get a cutscene giving off the credits and a big overview of the city and showing the journey of a train on its way, with this nice music in the background. And for a game made in the Gold Source engine, this game actually looks really good. I mean, it's not perfect at all, but on the same technology that made Half-Life in 1998, this is really impressive. Though it does bring some optimization issues, and I've heard it doesn't run well on some things, but I don't actually know this myself. Take it with a grain of salt. We see Simon walking on the street, and someone is crawling on the ground calling for help. You try to help, and you're rewarded for your good deeds by getting hit with a car. If you were a prick and just left him there, none of this would have happened. This game is clearly trying to convince me that we shouldn't help people or we get hit by fucking cars. You heard it here, folks! This game is asshole propaganda! You have some psychotic flashbacks that end up in this dark room with a camera. You take pictures of these X's and reveal stuff and try to find your way out until... You wake up on the streets with nothing but a phone and a knife. With the knife, you can go overhand and slash your enemies, or switch to going underhanded and do a slower but more powerful stab attack. And with the phone, you use it as a flashlight, which can shine forward if you have it in your hand, or leave a slight glow around you if you leave it on and put it in your pocket. This game also has a pretty cool inventory system. You assign weapons to 3 quick slots, and if you press 2 keys at the same time, you dual wield them. So if you press 2 and 3, like in this footage, you can wield the knife for defense and the phone for light. Though this won't work when you start to get two-handed weapons later on. You go throughout the area and come across this door with a combination lock on it, and you need to find the code. You find a computer, but you need a username and password. But good thing they were on these random pieces of paper that were just lying around. Ah! I'm sorry! I didn't mean to get in your computer, man! I'm sorry, You get the code and arrive here. You get a random text message and head into the storage area. You start getting tips about combat, so you should already assume that you're about to run into your first enemy. And you do. You get ambushed by some dude with a hammer and now you have to fight. Your first attack stuns this type of enemy, so you should get 2 more hits in before you have to step back. Now, during melee fights in this game, you're supposed to make good use of the dodge maneuver. You slash them, dodge their attack, and then repeat until they're dead. But you have to be careful as dodging or sprinting takes up stamina, and you also have to mind your surroundings so you don't back up into a wall. And if you're in a narrow corridor like this, it also helps that you time your attack right after their attack animation ends, so they get stuck in place and they don't step forward and push you back. A working ladder? In a Gold Source game? No fucking way! Alright, real quick, I want to let you know that this video is sponsored by Coca-Cola. You get a call for help from someone in an apartment building. So you climb up and get in, and yeah, in my opinion, this is the weakest part of the game. In fact, I think the biggest flaw in this game is that the beginning kinda sucks. So you really have to brave through it to get to the good stuff. And it could scare people away from the game before they really start to enjoy it. My big issue with the apartment is that it's so claustrophobic and annoying to fight enemies with a melee weapon, which really sucks because you don't even have a gun yet. You find these really creepy notes left behind what seems to like a child murderer talking about how much they like kidnapping and killing children before eating them. Yeah, this game is fucked! You finally get a gun, and now you have the choice to use up ammo or conserve it and keep going with melee, which is what I did. You can wield it on its own, which gives you the ability to fire more accurately and aim down iron sights, or you could dual wield it for more utility, but you fire less accurately and you can't reload unless you switch back to wielding it on its own. And speaking of reloading, this game has a special and more realistic reload system that's different from most other games. If you reload a fresh magazine in, you waste all of the bullets you had left of the previous magazine. Even if you only shot a single bullet and reloaded, you lost a shit ton of ammo. Which sounds like complete bullshit, but I think that it adds a bit of risk to shooting. When you have a little bit of ammo left in a magazine, you have to make the decision on if you want to reload to be on the safe side but waste all of the ammo, or you could risk it and try to make the best of what you have left, but if you don't have enough to kill an enemy, you could get in a lot of trouble. And I really think it works for a game like this, where you really have to be careful with your resources and use everything wisely. It requires you to use your brain and really think about everything you do, which I like. Knife. Gun. Knife gun. You have to go down this elevator, but it's locked. So you go around looking for the code, and you find a VHS tape. You go back to a TV to play it, and... wait a minute, that's a fucking DVD player! You go to this specific TV to play it, and you see this man torturing someone before cutting their head off. And it cuts to their body with the code sliced into them. Aw, what a nice torture murderer, so kindly putting the code in the video. You go down the elevator, and now the Silent Hill really kicks in. You go down this hall and into this room, and then out of nowhere, Pinhead from Hellraiser attacks you with a chainsaw. And now you're engaged in the first boss of the game. Sawyer. So to defeat Tom Sawyer, you have to give him a .45 caliber sandwich, and then he'll get down and expose his weak point and then damage it. Repeat until death, and then Simon gets sick and passes out. You wake up in a room with this doctor with a gas mask on and have a little chat.
Wait, why are you wearing a gas mask?
I used to wear something. Do I look like I want to turn into one of them?
Seeing how this has a bunch of Silent Hill influence, I'm guessing that I'm supposed to overanalyze the hell out of this. So he says that he doesn't want to turn into a monster, yet later on it turns out that he's just as bad as them. What if he was a real monster all along? Ooh. On to Chapter 2. Now, you find a Tonfa baton, and it's much better than the knife in my opinion, so I just ditched it. The baton does a lot more damage, but it has a bit of a build-up, so you have to swing early in anticipation. You call the suicide hotline, but instead of helping you, this strange voice just gives you the passcode for this door.
What the fuck are you talking about? I need help, please!
5, 2, 4, 7.
And then this phone call mechanic never appears in the game again. We then get in this area where we start to hear a chainsaw. And even though this is my third or fourth playthrough, this part still gets me. It keeps sounding like it gets closer and closer, and then these dead ends made to trick you and slow down. So that implies that you're on a time limit and something really is chasing you, and it isn't just a harmless sneak peek for a new enemy. Though I don't actually know if you could die at this part. I never tested it out. I never even turned around to check. You go through the obligatory sewer level and down into this construction site in a cave. You crawl through these tunnels and fight these enemies who are also in there with you, but they swing their weapon really slowly to compensate for your slower movement speed. That's a really good game design detail that any other game might have missed. You go up to the guy who blew his brains out with a shotgun on the gore warning from earlier and take his gun. And I swear to God, if I catch any of y'all making a Kurt Cobain joke in the comments, I'm gonna steal a locker from the local school, track your ass down, and shove you in the locker like the fucking nerd you are. You get swarmed by these weird swamp people, which you could use up ammo on, but one cool thing about this game is that enemies can damage each other, so I like to literally run circles around them and let them hit each other, and then finish them off when they're damaged enough. I like how this off-brand Bic lighter has a D instead of a B.
Dick!
You find the doctor again, but he runs away and locks you in a room with the second boss of the game, Mace. It looks big and scary, but it's hardly a threat, as he's very slow and has a huge wind-up on his weapon. What you're supposed to do is turn these valves all the way up to charge up electricity and shock the water you're in to damage the boss, and then get on this platform to save yourself from the electric shock. The risk is that he might hit you while you're turning the valve, so you're supposed to lure him into the opposite corner, bait his attack, and run for it. Don't even turn around and worry about him because that'll stop you from turning the valve. He wasn't even close enough to hit me here, so you have plenty of time. Oh hey, a save area. Not a bad time to save, and... yeah, okay, that's fine. This part is a force damage section, and it kinda sucks. But now you're on Chapter 3. This part is one of my favorites in the game. There's less corridor-centered levels and more open areas to run around and maneuver. We find a map, but we need to get to Saxon Avenue to get to a subway station to find our home neighborhood. You find this... thing. So you have to take the tunnels around, and then you get swarmed by knockoff Michael Myers, which the shotgun takes care of real good. And now for what was once the scariest part of the game for me on the first time I played this, but is now the least scary part of the game. You come across this chain door, which later bursts open to reveal Saw Runner. Instincts will tell you to run as fast as you can and get out, but that's exactly what's gonna get you killed. Saw Runner almost acts like an anxiety test. If you panic when you encounter him, you die, but if you take it easy, you're good. This is most likely a bug or an oversight, but if you just walk away instead of just sprinting away from him, he misses every strike, which is the funniest shit. And here's another tip from me. If you go back through this door that you came through and come back in, he just disappears. You'll hear his chainsaw, but he won't be there anymore. Again, probably another bug, but still. Actually, but now that you're safe, you can grab this M16, which can fire in 3-round bursts or semi-automatic fire, which is the one I recommend. But I never use it until later when you actually start getting ammo for it. Get it? A literal Easter egg? You do this riddle in the town park and get yet another weapon, the hunting rifle, which works really well on these floating bed people. You get a phone call from a random stranger who wants you to meet them on a rooftop. And now the objective is to find them. What? How the hell did you get the gate behind the pole? You find a map with X's on it to mark buried treasure, so you take a shovel and dig them up. Some of them have health and ammo pickups, and one of them has the key that you need to progress. You go on the rooftops to meet Sophie, who's the second person you meet who isn't a monster. Or the first if you count my monster doctor thing. She seems to be someone that Simon recognizes, and he tries to tell her about everything that's been happening, but she doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And instead tries to have a normal conversation about him and stuff that happened in life. And then this happens.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you. To get away from it all.
Oh, but what? Out here?
No, away from everything. Away from all this.
What? What do you mean?
You know full well what I mean.
Wait a sec, you mean all... No! No! This isn't making any sense.
Now it's time for Boss 3, the Carcass. And this boss is special with how you actually have the option to run away from it. and the story changes depending on if you kill it or run away, which I'll get back to later. The fight itself is, again, not much of a threat. It uses this range attack that tries to home in on you, but if you get behind this piece of cover and keep shooting it, pretty much all of their attacks just run into a wall. So it gets his cark ass served to him on a silver platter like if we were the butler. So we go down to Sophia's body and we get a flashback of him talking to her.
Let me go.
I love you, Sophie.
I have to leave. Please.
I fucking love
Just
you.
let me go, Simon.
Yeah, you just can't have a classic horror game without the cheesy-ass voice acting.
Oh, hi, Simon.
Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Was it you who made her do it? Why? You sick fuck! Oh. French.
That was too close. I was almost a Simon sandwich. On to chapter 4, and here the difficulty is ramped up considerably. I started getting hurt a lot more here, but thankfully I had a lot of morphine shots, which are the only health items in the game. It says that this is strong stuff, so I better be careful with it, but I never ran into any problems with it myself. I'm guessing if you take too many too fast, it starts to damage you instead of help you, and you might overdose or something like that. I don't know. One thing I like about it though is that it fully regenerates all your health at once. But they're few and far between, so like the ammo in this game, it brings a bit of risk to healing. If you're damaged a little bit, you could either take one to be on the safe side but not get much out of it, or you could risk it and only take it when you're really low on health, which gets you the most value out of it, but if you mess up, you might end up dead. And this especially works because, again, it's the only health item in the game. There's no lesser health item to take when you're only a little bit damaged, so you have to make this decision a lot and you have to think carefully to manage your limited resources. Now we have these enemies with guns, so you will need to take cover. They die to a single headshot, but if you get right in their face, they shoot themselves in the head, which I try to get to conserve my ammo. And speaking of ammo, these enemies all drop Glocks. So if you take a full mag off every kill, so you're pretty much gonna have a lot of Glock ammo at this point. And here we have off-brand hell. We have Shillups, Paznonic, JAC, and Nosy. We made it to the subway station, but we can't get in because we need a power fuse to open it. So now we need to go find it. We go out this way, and then we meet our old pal Sawrunner. This skybox looks really good. I really like how it reflects off of the water. We go ahead and we find a new pistol, the VP-70, or the Matilda if you play Resident Evil 2, which fires 3-round bursts and holds more bullets, but ammo for it is a lot more scarce, so I stick with the Glock. We then get this platforming section, which sucks, but then we get to one of my favorite parts of the game, the college. You get this nice but kind of disturbing music to go along with you, and you head into what seems to be a peaceful area. You can explore at your own pace and check everything out in peace. But when you take out the fuse that you're supposed to get, the power goes out and shit gets real. You're swarmed by these enemies and you can't get out the way you came from, so you have to find a key to an alternate exit. And I gotta say, haunted schools are probably the perfect locations for a scary game. Haunted houses? Yeah, pretty good. Haunted forests? Yeah, really good. Haunted schools? Absolute nightmare fuel. I remember going out on the road at night and seeing my actual schools in the dark, and it already looks like a horror game location with all the eerie lighting on the outside and how it's just pitch black on the inside. Just creepy. You head back to Saxon Avenue and place the fuse in, and head into the subway station. You find a map and you're finally seeing a path home, and you're supposed to take a train to Kirkland, which is where you live. You find this thing again, but this time you have a clever way to get rid of it. Nice. At this point, your phone is starting to run out of batteries, so you have no reliable light source, and you're supposed to use these flares to light you up through these tunnels. The flares are supposed to be limited, but there's so much of them lying around at this part that you have a hard time running out. I really want to take this flare, but sadly, I can't carry any more syringes. Yeah, alright. At this part, you hear a lot of banging and screaming, which keeps sounding like it gets closer and closer every time, which is really good horror. I fucking love the sound design in this game. Actually, speaking of sounds, let's talk about the music. It's really good. Most of it is just ambient noise, which is still good. I like ambient stuff. But a lot of it really keeps me on my toes. Like, it sounds like something is actually happening when it's really not. But besides the scary music, there's also some that sounds melancholic, but it has a bit of an unsettling vibe to it. Like, you're safe, but only just for now. And another thing to mention is the lack of music. I actually found that the rooms that scared me the most were the ones with no music or background noise at all. It keeps me on edge more than anything. Like, it makes me feel like a jump scare is coming right around the corner to disturb the silence. Overall, pretty damn good. I rate Cry of Fear soundtrack as good ass. You get out of the tunnels, then you have to Bear Grylls your ass out of there. No, I don't mean drink your own piss, I mean run away from the train, else you get ran over. This part is alright. My biggest issue with it is that it only has just enough time for a perfect run. So if you turn around for a second to see what's going on, or if you don't react fast enough, well, good luck. You find the doctor again, and he just shot someone in the head. And now we're after him again. We find another door that needs 2 fuses, so we need to get back to the ones we had and bring them back here. We have a new battery for the phone, so you can just ditch the flares. But if you kept the Glock, you soon find a tactical flashlight that you can attach to it, so you can see in the dark while being able to aim down sights and reload. And now it's time to meet my favorite enemy in the game, the Big Boss! These are supposed to be the most dangerous and intimidating enemies in the game, and I found them so cool upon seeing them. They're super slow and easy to avoid, but if you get hit by them, you're done for. They're absolute bullet sponges, so don't even think about killing them. And even then, why would you kill these guys? They're awesome! So you go back into the apartments again, but this chain door from earlier is now free. You go inside, and it's just completely bloody. You walk down this really long tunnel, and you hear someone talk about Simon's mental health, and what really struck me is that he said he didn't take him seriously when he's been saying he's been seeing hallucinations, and all he did was just up his meds. He said that Simon wasn't cooperating much and didn't give him much crucial information, but either way, this psychiatrist or doctor or whatever sounds like he wasn't much help, and that might have been a reason for Simon's descent into madness. Now we're starting to get hints on the story. After that, we get locked in an arena with a bunch of enemies, and we have to kill them all before proceeding. And then we have to run to the door, and boom! There's one fuse down, and now you have to get the other one out of Saxon Avenue, and circle back around and get into the subway station through another entrance, and then place the 2 fuses and then move on. And now we're back to fighting these gun guys. You know what? It's time to talk about the shooting. The shooting in this game is not all that amazing. I mean, the gun sounds are not bad, and I like the reload mechanic, but there's some issues with it. One slight issue I have is that aiming down iron sights doesn't feel all that good, and it just feels sluggish. And the other one, which is my biggest issue with the shooting, is that you can hardly tell if you even shot your enemy or not. There's no flinch or pain animation from getting hit, there's no blood coming out of them when you land a shot, nothing. I mean, there's some blood that soaks the walls and floor when you kill them, but you really need to pay attention and notice that. And they do let out cries of pain when you shoot them sometimes, but if I'm unloading a fast-firing weapon like the Glock into them, then it doesn't keep up and it doesn't communicate accurately with me how much they got shot. So oftentimes, I can't even tell if I hit or missed an enemy. It doesn't cause massive issues down the line, but there are a bunch of inconveniences with it. I rate Cry of Fear shooting as bad ass. But if you fix those 2 issues, I might bump it up to good badass. You make it to this train, but you can't run it unless you get those 2 fuses back over here and put them in the rail power grid. So you take the sledgehammer on the train to break open this wall and find an alternate route there. But of course, it's not always gonna be that easy. After that, you solve this riddle and get to the save point that says, "You will not survive," and drop into this maze, which seems really complex and confusing, but it really isn't. All you have to do is just keep taking right turns around every corner. Right, 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 right. You just gotta be careful not to hit Earthworm Jim in a straitjacket, and eventually you make it to the end. You get another flashback to what might be Simon's psychiatrist from earlier talking about the physical damage in the accident. He had spinal damage and his legs don't work anymore, but even though it looked like it from the beginning, the crash was not the start of Simon's mental health issues, and he's been having them for a long time. It looks like we keep getting bits and pieces of what actually happened, and we have to put them together to get the full context. Now an alternate route is open, and you can take the fuses back to the train and get it moving again. It looks like smooth sailing from here, but of course, it sounds like something just happened, so we have to check it out now. We get attacked on our way to the back of the train, but the crouch key is your best friend, and there's lots of cover you can take to dodge these enemies' ranged attacks. You get a dismembered foot and give it back to this suitcase, and then the train crashes and hangs off the edge of this bridge. And now you have to climb out of it, so you jump along doors, poles, and debris, and get out of the train and onto the bridge. Now you're on safe ground, but there's a problem. When it crashed, you lost all of your items, including your backpack that you had on, so now your inventory space has been cut in half, and you can only carry 3 items at a time. So now, inventory management is even tighter. We go into the forest, and I hate this part so much. And I love it! You get a lantern for light and a tree branch for defense. The lantern isn't as good as the phone or the flares, so you're almost in complete darkness for this entire part. And your only clue on your way out is a trail of lanterns that light your way up. We once again meet our old pal Sawrunner. Sup, man? All you gotta do is follow this arrow and get on top of the staircase. On my previous playthroughs, he just stands there next to me and just looks at me weird. But I guess he's too shy to come on camera, so he wasn't there this time. On this part, you have to watch out for the trees, as hanging bodies can fall from them and damage you. But you go through this labyrinth, kill this enemy that you haven't seen before and will never see again, and then you make it to the front of a mental hospital, where we see the doctor go in before us. We power up this generator with the easiest puzzle in history. Just press the 4 buttons in order from left to right, and this door opens. We go up to meet the doctor, who finally talks to us, and he says he wants a new gun. One funny thing that happens is if you try to shoot him through these bars, he actually has dialogue telling us to stop doing that. We go down and get the gun that he wants, but we have the choice on if we want to give it to him or not, and both choices has an effect on the story. But either way, we get shot in the shoulder and it lowers our maximum health for the rest of the game. We chase after him and get in a gunfight where we need to take cover in order to not get shot. And I like the detail where it's actually a bit different depending on what gun he has. If you don't give him the gun, he uses his revolver, which does more damage, but he reloads it more often. But if you did give him the gun, he uses the one you gave him, and you actually hear him reload a magazine in, while if you didn't, it sounds like he's reloading a revolver. If you didn't give him the gun, you actually get to keep the gun that you didn't give him, and then you can dual wield it with the Glock, and then go all John Woo on his ass. After we down him, we get a memory of Simon's doctor, Dr. Purnell, trying to help him with his condition, and he suggested that he try CBT, which stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, and he asked him if he could write a book about how he feels and see if that helps. And then we stamp his face in and crack his gas mask like an egg. We then get the .45 caliber pistol or the revolver depending on if we gave him the gun or not. The P345 pistol is slower, has less bullets, but deals more damage than the Glock, while the revolver is even slower and even more powerful with even less bullets, but it has a really long reload time. We go back out, and for the first time in the entire game, we're at peace. It's actually kind of nice. We go on this boat and into this lake house, and now things are dark and spooky again. We can see an enemy through these cracked floorboards, but sadly you can't kill them from up here. We swim through these tunnels and meet Saw Runner for the last time in the game. We get out and we're finally at Kirkville, our home neighborhood. We head inside our house and nobody's home, but we find this book, and this part is different depending on your actions in the story. If you ran away from the carcass and/or didn't give the gun to the doctor, you get the bad boss fight. Simon commits suicide, and we get one last level, and my god, this fucking music. Wait, it says I'm dead, but I somehow died here. Did I, like, die twice? We climb up on these books and head up to kill ourselves. Literally, we're gonna try to kill Simon as Simon. There's two phases to this fight. One where you dodge debris being thrown around, and another where you kill these enemies. We open up the gate and beat the shit out of ourselves. Die! I said die! Die already! Okay, Simon says die! Okay, there we go. Alright, we successfully killed ourselves. God damn it. If you kill the carcass and give the gun to the doctor, we pick up the book and we see Simon consider committing suicide, but evil bloody Simon appears at the door and we chase after them in a wheelchair. And this fight kinda sucks. We have to shoot him at every opportunity that we can and then finish him off here, where he tries to kill us with a sledgehammer. And there we go. Now there's actually 4 endings, 3 bad endings and 1 good ending, and it depends on if we killed the carcass and we gave the doctor the gun. And that's because both of them serve as an analogy for things Simon had to deal with, Silent Hill style. For some context, Sophie, the girl from earlier, was Simon's girlfriend who helped him with his mental health, but then she left him. And her jumping to her death was an analogy for what Simon saw as her abandoning him. And the carcass is supposed to be this monstrous manifestation of his anger at her. And for the doctor, it's supposed to represent Dr. Purnell, who was Simon's doctor that was supposed to help him with his health, who he gets very frustrated at and loses trust for when his condition just kept getting worse. If you kill the carcass, that means you got over your frustration and anger with Sophie, and then Simon gets over it and forgives her for leaving him. But if you run, he doesn't forgive her and holds a grudge on them. Meanwhile, if you give the doctor the gun in the mental hospital, that signifies that Simon still trusts Dr. Purnell and thanks him for helping him. But if you don't, that means that Simon blames a lot of his issues on him and doesn't trust him anymore. If you retreat from the carcass fight and don't give the doctor the gun, you get the worst ending. He kills Sophie, Purnell, and then himself, and in the conclusion, he sounds the most angry and pissed off out of all of them.
They lied to me! They didn't know what it felt like! Pretending that they care about me. It's all bullshit! To whoever is reading this, I hope my dead body will haunt you forever. Have fun scraping my brains off the wall. Fuck you!
If you kill the carcass but refuse to give the doctor the gun, he kills Purnell and then himself but feels sorry for Sophie. If you retreat from the carcass but give the doctor the gun, it's the other way around. He kills Sophie and himself, but he feels sorry for Purnell. For the good ending, you have to kill the carcass and give the doctor the gun. He forgives Sophie, trusts the doctor, and doesn't commit suicide. But after you vanquish Evil Simon in the wheelchair boss fight, it turns out that that wasn't what you were shooting at. You snap back to reality, and it reveals that you've been shooting at a couple of police officers the whole time. You get arrested and then sent to court, where the killing was ruled as a psychotic episode, and Simon spends the rest of his life in a mental hospital, where he finishes his book.
They let me finish my book. And it has helped me. A lot. I wrote a happy ending. Just for myself.
Damn. This fucking story is just sad, man. I told you this shit would get heavy. But either way, I really like the story. I also really like the detail where in the bad endings where Simon dies, you kill normal Simon. Like the sickness has won and it pushed him over the edge of suicide. While on the good ending, you kill sick, evil Simon. Like you triumphed over the sickness and successfully fought off your suicidal urges. And roll credits! And that was Cry of Fear, everyone. Now, there's a lot of ways I can describe this game, but I like to call it a flawed masterpiece. It does a lot of things right, but some things wrong. The horror is amazing. I would actually consider this one of the scariest games I've ever played. It gets to super weird and just straight up fucked up territory. Mental health and depression are stuff that I do not fuck around with. But this game was not afraid to use it, and I think that the very real subject matter made this a lot more dark and scary, though it can get a bit jump scare heavy at times. The gameplay is also pretty good, but it has some problems. The movement isn't all that great, which really brings down all these platforming sections. Some enemies can get some cheap hits on you, like sometimes you walk out of a door and instantly get hit from an enemy that was just waiting for you there. And again, the beginning area where you're in the apartments is just a bad part of the game. I actually tried to play this on harder difficulties, but I couldn't get past this one part because it was so claustrophobic and a pain in the ass to fight all these melee-centered enemies. And it wasn't even all that fun either, it just felt like artificial difficulty. Or maybe I just suck. Another big issue is that none of the cutscenes are skippable, and it really does get annoying sometimes. You have to watch the entire beginning cutscene when you open up the game. You have to watch the entire Sophie conversation every time you die on the carcass fight. And you have to walk through this long-ass hallway every time you die on this arena part. This game really would be a lot better if it had a skip scene button. But disregarding the flaws, it's really good as a survival horror shooter. The combat is pretty good, and the resource management aspect is spot on, with the reload system, the morphine shots, and the firearm or melee fighting. The pacing is also really well done. Every time it feels like it's gonna get repetitive, it throws a curveball at you. Oh, now you're in a big open city. Oh, now you ran out of phone batteries and need to use flares. Whoop, now you lost all your items and you have less inventory and health. The game just stays fresh the whole time. Overall, it's a really good game with some issues and is one of my favorite horror games ever made. I rate Cry of Fear as kick ass! Yo, Tim Curry worked on this game?
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by
You sick fuck!
space!